reason that you're tuning in. This marks a milestone for us on several levels. First of all, we are currently in the process of trying to figure out how to reopen during the pandemic. And so we're doing virtual productions both tonight and tomorrow night. So this is the first time that we're actually doing two separate productions simultaneously. One has been rehearsing here in this space, and then we have another space that we're going to be performing in tomorrow night. That show's going to be, it's called Building the Wall, and it's a very powerful drama. The playwright who wrote it, Robert Schenken, the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, he wrote the play after Trump was inaugurated in 2017. And it's amazing because it's kind of a dystopian version of the future, so it's set in 2019, but the play deals with racism, it deals with immigration, and in the rehearsal process, we kept asking ourselves, which is fiction, which is reality, because so many things that are written about in the play are actually happening now. So if you haven't bought tickets for tomorrow night's live stream performance of Building the Wall, I encourage you to do so, because it fits in with the theme that we are doing for this weekend, which just happens to be political productions. The other milestone for us is this is the first time we've actually collaborated with Tipping Point Theater, and so we're so grateful for this opportunity. And I just want to read, because I don't want to get their manifesto wrong. So the Tipping Point Theater Company is dedicated to productions that promote tips the scales in favor of equality for all. We seek to eradicate inequality in all of its forms, including but not limited to racism, sexism, classism, heterosexism, ageism, and ableism. So and their mission fits completely in with Red Herring's mission, which is to produce plays that are profound, provocative, and professional, that we try to stimulate dialogue and debate in the community with the ultimate objective of trying to change the world. And nothing could be more appropriate than the current political and social climate in which we are now living. So this is a very important milestone for all of us. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so already, please register to vote. We are really at a binary choice of either our nation goes back to where we were in the 1950s with the values and everything that's going on, and then the other option is that we look forward to the 21st century and embrace things like climate change and systemic racism, and with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, God rest her soul, then nothing could be more timely. So we want to thank tonight Jill Hay, who is the sponsor for this production, and the Greater Columbus Arts Council for their continued support for our work. And we want to thank you so much and enjoy our production of Something to Vote For.
Down by the old mill stream, where I first met you, with your eyes of blue, dressed in gingham tulle. It was there.
The year is 1911. For 50 years, anti-suffragists have been a force in the United States political life. But this year, things are looking particularly grim. The National Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage has just been founded, and its pamphlet, which explains why women should not be allowed to vote, is being widely distributed. In New York, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, a prominent American humanist, writer, and lecturer for social reform, decides to swing the pendulum in the opposite direction. She writes a one-act play that addresses a cause close to all women's hearts at the time, in hopes that they might realize the positive impact that could be made if only they had the power to vote. The play is called Something to Vote For and takes place in the parlor of Mrs. May Carroll, a widow and president of the Women's Club.
Enter Miss Turner, the recording secretary and a social wannabe.
And Mrs. Reedway, the amiable social secretary of the club. Oh, dear me. I was so worried that we were going to be late.
Oh no, the meeting begins at 3, you know, and it's only 1/4 past.
I do wish it would get warmer. I do like warm weather.
So do I.
What a lovely place Mrs. Carroll has. We are so lucky to have her as the president of our club.
So do I. She's so sweet.
I hear she's asked Mr. Billings to this milk discussion.
Yes. You're not surprised, are you?
Oh no, everyone's talking about them. He's been conspicuously devoted to her for some time. I think it's her money he's after.
So do I. But she's crazy about him.
I suppose she thinks he's disinterested, being so rich himself. But I've heard he'll lose a lot if this milk bill goes through.
So have I.
Enter Dr. Strong. She's from Colorado, the very first state to give every woman the right to vote. Sorry to be late. I was detained by a patient.
Oh, you're not late, Dr. Strong. The ladies are usually a little slow in gathering.
I see. Well, about what time does your meeting actually begin?
About 3:30 usually.
Next time, I'll come then. I could have seen 1 or 2 more patients. I do hate to see women be so unpunctual.
So do I. This is Mrs. Reedway, our corresponding secretary, Dr. Strong.
You must remember, Dr. Strong, that our members are not, as a whole, professional women.
More's the pity.
Enter Mrs. Wolverhampton. She's rich. Well, well, not started yet. Oh, but you are always on hand, Miss Turner. Bless me, but it is hot. I do so hate hot weather.
So do I.
Have you met our new member, Mrs. Wolverhampton, Dr. Strong of Colorado?
Dear me, from Colorado. And I suppose you have voted.
Oh, I certainly have. You seem to think I look like it.
Well, yes, if you'll pardon me, you do.
Pardon you? Well, it seems to me quite a compliment. We're very proud of being voters. In my country.
I think she's a suffragette.
Enter Mrs. Carroll, hostess and president. Oh, pardon me, ladies. I had no idea it was so late.
Dear Miss Carroll, would you accept these flowers?
Oh, how charming of you, Miss Turner. They are lovely. Oh, my dear doctor, I feel so glad and proud to have you with us. You know, Mrs. Wolverhampton, Dr. Strong saved my mother's life. And if she'd come here sooner, I'm sure she would have saved my baby. And she's going to be such a help to our club, aren't you, Doctor?
Oh, I'm not so sure of that, Mrs. Carroll. I'm afraid this isn't the sort of club I'm used to.
Well, it's the sort of club that needs you. Make yourself quite at home, ladies. The others will be here presently. We've got everything arranged, Doctor. I'm going to have a bottle of the Billings Company milk tested, and Mr. Billings himself is to be here.
Oh, that may be awkward.
Oh, no, the milk is all right. I've taken it for years, and I think he's a very fine man.
Yeah, so I hear.
You mustn't believe all you hear, Doctor.
I don't. But I do hope it isn't true.
Oh, what is it true?
About you and Mr. Billings.
Never mind about me and Mr. Billings. The question is, have you got the inspector to come?
Yes, he'll be ready and on time. But the club won't, I'm afraid.
Oh, a few moments won't matter, I'm sure. It's a Mr. Arnold, you said. Do you know his initials?
His name's Henry T. Arnold. I believe he's honest and efficient.
I used to go to school with a boy named Harry Arnold. He was the very nicest boy in the room. I think he liked me pretty well.
And I think you liked him pretty well, eh?
Oh, well, that was years ago.
By the way, Mrs. Carroll, have you any red ink?
Red ink.
Yes, red ink. Can you get me some?
I'm sure I don't know. Let me see. If I did have some, it's right here. If there is any. Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, how exciting. What do you do that for, Doctor?
Well, it's just a little habit I have. Someday I may see this bill again, and now I know it.
Do you mark all of your money, Doctor?
Oh no, only some of it. And now, you must do me a real favor. If you see me make this, if you see this bill again, please do not remark about it, all right? If you see me change it.
Indeed, I will.
You said I might bring along one of my patients, or evidence, right? Well, I have. I've got little Mrs. O'Shane with me. She's here to tell them how it affects the poor people.
It will be interesting, I'm sure. Where is she?
Oh, outside, waiting. I couldn't induce her to come in.
I'll bring her in. Mrs. Carroll exits and returns with...
Mrs. O'Shane. She is a small, shabby woman dressed in black who shrinks in the chair the farthest from the room and sits silently.
It's very good of you to come, Mrs. O'Shane. We're very much obliged.
Mr. Arnold, ma'am.
Show him in, Louise.
Enter Mr. Arnold, the milk inspector.
Mrs. Carroll, Mr. Arnold.
It is Harry Arnold, I do believe. Oh, but you don't remember me.
Don't remember little Mary Terry, the prettiest girl in school? I've never forgotten of her. But I did not expect to find you here.
I'm very glad to welcome you to my home, Mr. Arnold, as well as to our club. And how are you getting on?
Oh, nothing to boast of, if you mean in dollars and cents. I like public work, you see, but the salary isn't very high.
But some of our officials get very rich, don't they?
Yes, some of them do, but not on their salaries.
If you knew more about politics, Mrs. Carroll, you would think better of Mr. Arnold for not making much money. And he is an inspector, too.
You don't mean that our public men are bribed, surely?
It's been known to occur.
Oh, I can't believe that such things go on here. Did anyone ever bribe you, Mr. Arnold?
Some have tried.
Well, not in this town, surely.
Not yet.
Yes, he's only just appointed, Mrs. Carroll.
Thanks to you, Dr. Straw.
Oh, well, yes, I guess I did help.
Mr. Billings.
Ask him to come in.
Enter Mr. Billings, head of the Milk Trust.
Good afternoon, Mr. Billings. Let me present you to my dear friend, Dr. Strong, our new member. And Mr. Arnold, you probably know, the milk inspector.
Well, Mr. Arnold, I think we're going to make an impression on these ladies. I trust you'll deal gently with me.
I'll do the best I can, Mr. Billings. I didn't expect to have the head of the Milk Trust in my audience.
That is all my fault, Mr. Arnold. I have taken milk of Mr. Billings' company for years, and it's always good. And I want the ladies of the club to know it. Mr. Billings can stand the test.
I'm glad to hear it, Mrs.
You'll
Carroll.
show up all us rascally milkmen yet, I don't doubt.
Oh, I hope not.
Now, Mr. Arnold, watch me, okay? Play up. Say you can't make change for this bill, all right? Yes. She goes to Mr. Billings. Mr. Billings, could you change this bill for me? Mr. Arnold here can't make it.
I'm sorry, Doctor, but I haven't seen a $100 bill in quite some time.
Perhaps I can.
No, indeed, Mrs. Carroll. I'd be delighted, Dr. Strong, if I have that much about me.
wrong, Mr. Arnold. I don't want to cross your trail.
Isn't it a rather new thing for you to interest yourself in public matters, Mrs. Carroll?
Oh, but milk is really a domestic matter, don't you think so? So many of our ladies are getting interested in it.
I suspect that is because you are getting into it. I do not think you realize your influence in this town.
I'm sure you overestimate it.
Not in the least. Look at the way you swing this club. And these women are the society lights. All the other women follow. And the men are yours to command anyhow. I tell you, such an influence as yours has women's suffrage beaten to a standstill.
Women's suffrage.
Pardon me, Mrs. Carroll, but it is 3:30.
Dear me, yes, we must come to order. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I can't make a speech. And I'm not in the least fit to be president of the club.
Oh.
But you would have it, you know. I am very glad to welcome you to my home, and I sure hope that we will all enjoy meeting here. I don't suppose it's very businesslike, but the very first thing I want to do is to introduce our new member, Dr. Strong of Colorado. Oh, do come forward to the platform, Doctor, where we can all see you.
Well, ladies, Madam President, gentlemen, I did not expect to be sprung on you until after the reading of the minutes, at least. But I am very glad to meet you all. And I feel that you have honored me with this membership in what I understand to be the most influential women's club in the community. I have heard that it is a very conservative club, but I find that you are interesting yourselves in one of the most vital movements of our time. A question of practical politics. Pure milk. It is a great question, ladies. A most important question. One that appeals to the mother heart and housekeeping sense of every woman. It is a matter of saving money and saving life. The lives of little children. I do not know of any single issue now before us which is so sure to make every woman want to vote.
Oh, no.
The ballot is our protection.
No, Madam President.
No. Mrs. Black.
I rise to a point of order. I move you that our new member be informed that all discussion of women's suffrage is forbidden by the bylaws of this club. No subject is so calculated to disrupt an organization.
Madam President,
Yes, go on, Mrs. Black.
I wish to second the motion. We decided long ago to allow no discussion of women's suffrage. I consider it to be one of the most dangerous movements of our time.
Madam President!
Mrs. White, won't you come forward, Mrs. White?
Oh, no, excuse me. No, I'll speak from here. I merely wish to agree with the previous speaker. Women's suffrage breaks up the home.
Madam President!
Madam President!
Mrs. Gray, I think, spoke first. In a moment, Mrs. Green. Mrs. Gray, I just want to say that I, for one, feel obliged to resign if women's suffrage is to even be mentioned in this club.
Madam President!
Madam President. Ladies, one at a time, please.
A woman's place is in the home, Madam President. If a woman takes good care of her home and brings up the children right.
Women are not fitted for politics.
Exactly.
They haven't the mind for it.
Yes.
And my husband says politics isn't fit for women either.
This club decided long ago that it was against women's suffrage et al. Who take care of the baby? Our power is through our feminine influence. Yes, a woman's influence.
Yes,
Yes.
Ladies, we will adjourn for some refreshments. Won't you please all come and have some tea?
Well, Dr. Strong, you did put your foot in it.
Yes, that was unfortunate, wasn't it? I had no idea they'd fly up like that.
Never mind. I only talk milk to them, pure milk.
I'm right sorry to annoy them. Those women, This is an awfully important occasion. I mean, even if they can't vote, they could do something.
Don't you fret, Doctor. We'll get him interested.
You don't know how important this is, Mr. Arnold. The death rate among the babies here, it's something shameful. It's mostly owing to bad milk. And the bad milk is mostly owing to this man, Billings. If this bill passes, he's got the whole thing in his hands. And he is crooked.
I'd about come to that conclusion myself.
He's got her confidence also, you see. And she swings this town, socially. What's more, he means to marry her. And he's not a fit man to marry any decent woman. We've got to put a spoke in his wheel, Mr. Arnold.
I'm willing.
You'll never get a better opportunity than right now. He'll try to fix you before you speak. I'll promise you that. And do stick out your hand and take that bill. Take it.
I guess not. What kind of person do you think I am?
I think you're man enough to see this game through. It's a marked bill, I tell you. Okay? You take that 100 and you look at it. And if there is a spot of red ink in the middle, on the top, on both sides, you take it and bring it out in evidence after you've shown up the milk.
Well, but the milk he sends here will be all right.
Of course it will. But I've brought another bottle in my bag, and I'm going to substitute it. It's his milk, all right. The common grocery store kind. You'll be safe with the iodine test. Now, shh, take the bill.
Mrs. Carroll enters, bringing tea to Mrs. O'Shane. We are really much indebted to you for coming, Mrs. O'Shane. I hope you are quite comfortable.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you kindly.
Now, Dr. Strong, you mustn't be angry because our ladies are not suffragettes.
Oh, not a bit. I'm only sorry I mentioned it. I'm here to talk about milk, not suffrage.
That's nice of you. Now do go get some tea, Doctor. I suppose you're going to be very impressive, Mr. Arnold. You were as a boy, you know.
Was I? I don't remember that.
Yes, indeed. You used to brush your hair, when you did brush your hair, in a way that I thought was extremely fine.
Oh, and yours was always brushed. Beautiful, long, soft curls. I used to wish I dared touch them.
My hair's grown so much darker since then, and I'm getting gray.
Mr. Arnold draws nearer. Gray? Oh, it's a libel. Not a single one.
Oh, there were 2 or 3. But to speak confidentially, I pulled them out.
Oh, it wasn't necessary. You will still be more beautiful, even with gray hair.
You didn't make compliments at 13.
I didn't dare.
And how do you dare now?
The courage of desperation, I suppose. Here you are, still young, more beautiful than ever. The richest woman in town, able to lift and stir all these women, a social leader. And here am I, a lot older than you are, and nothing but a milk inspector.
You haven't had much personal ambition, have you?
No, I haven't. But I might, if I were encouraged.
Oh, Mr. Arnold, I am so glad to find you are my old friend, and to think that you do perhaps value my opinion.
You're right as to that. That's what discouraged me when you married Carol, when I had heard that you'd become a mere society woman. You've got a great mind. You've always had, but you never use it.
You do think I have a mind, then?
Indeed I do. A first-class one.
Then let me persuade you to speak for this milk bill, Mr. Arnold. And I do hope in your speech you'll mention the excellent influence on the milk, of the Billings Company.
I shall have to tell what I know, Mrs. Carroll. You want the facts.
Well, of course we want the facts. But having Mr. Billings' milk to be tested, and Mr. Billings here, and him being a good friend of mine, I'm particularly anxious to have his reputation thoroughly established.
I see. And if I should say anything against Mr. Billings. Should we meet as strangers?
Not at all, Mr. Arnold. Wait, it's the milk we're talking about, not Mr. Billings.
I beg pardon. I understand.
I began to think I shouldn't have a chance to see you at all.
Well, I'm quite conspicuous, I'm sure, in the chair.
But I like best to see you alone.
No one sees me when I'm alone.
You can joke about it, Mrs. Carroll. It is a very serious matter to me. You must know how much I care for you, how long I have been devoted to you. You know I am an ambitious man, Mrs. Carroll. I must be to dare hope for you. There are things I can't speak of yet, big chances in politics. If I had you with me, with your beauty and fascinating ways, by heavens, there's no place that I wouldn't hope for. I've never wanted anything so much in my entire life as I want you now. When will you give me an answer?
Certainly not now, Mr. Billings.
When the meeting is over.
Perhaps when the meeting is over.
Enter Miss Turner with her bag of papers.
Oh, Miss Turner. Are you going to set us to work again?
I hope I don't interrupt.
Interrupt? Oh, no, this is a club meeting. Miss Turner, are we ready now?
Perhaps if you'd have the maid bring in the sample.
Oh, yes. Bring in the bottle of milk, Louise.
I'm to be the scapegoat for the sins of the whole community, I see.
You are going to clear the good name of our milk supply, Mr. Billings. Oh, here it is. The best milk in town.
Mr. Billings takes it up. That's mine, all right. Name blown in the bottle, sealed with paraffin, airtight from cow to customer, Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Arnold examines the bottle. Looks like good milk, Mr. Billings.
It is good milk, Mr. Arnold. There's none better in the market. We're not afraid of your examination.
Do you send out a uniform quality?
Well, hardly that, of course. We have some with less butter fat, comes a cent or two lower, but it's all pure milk.
Get them to look at your papers or something. Call them off.
Have you seen our official cards, Mrs. Carroll?
What's the matter, Mr. Billings?
Madam, why not?
Name blown in the bottle, all right.
Yes.
Paraffin seal, all right.
Yes, it's all right.
Well, what is it? Is anything wrong with the milk?
No, certainly not.
Well, Miss Turner, I think we must collect our audience.
May I be of assistance?
Excuse me, Mr. Arnold, but there's been a mistake here. This is not the bottle of milk that was sent to Mrs. Carroll. By some error, it's a bottle of our second quality. I'd hate to have her find out. I've got another bottle in my car here, and I'm going to switch it out. It won't take but a moment.
I don't think you'd better, Mr. Billings. It wouldn't look good. There really isn't time.
I suppose you're right. See here, Mr. Arnold, this is a very important matter to me. More important than you know. This bottle is not my best milk, but I'd be very obliged to you to test it.
I hope it will.
Look here, Arnold. Now, there's no time. Here, quick.
I'm not in the habit of taking...
Shh! You see that? So stiff about it. For goodness sake, man. See me through this foolish hen party, and I'll make it well worth your while. Come on, put that in your pocket just this one time. You'll understand.
Just this one time.
Will the meeting please come to order? I think, since it's already so late, and since we've had such an important question to discuss, it will be as well to postpone our regular order of business until our next meeting. I'm sure you'll be glad to have our discussion open with a few words from Mr. Billings. Mr. Billings is the head of the milk business here and knows more about it than any man in town. It is his milk which we are to have tested this afternoon, And he is proud to have it so, aren't you, Mr. Billings?
Yes, yes.
Now, do talk to us a little, Mr. Billings. Won't you please come forward?
Madam President, and ladies, also Mr. Inspector, I find it to be an honor to be here today to meet so many of the leading ladies of our community, to see so many fair faces, hear so many sweet voices, to take the hand of so many that I am proud to number among my friends. I wish to congratulate this club on its new president, a lady whose presence carries a benefaction wherever she goes. In these days, when so many misguided and unwomanly women are meeting together for all manner of unnecessary and sometimes utterly misguided purposes, it is a genuine treasure to find here so many true women of that innate refinement which always avoids notoriety. It has been my pleasure and my pride to have helped in serving this community with pure and healthful milk for many years past. Our new organization, of which there is now so much discussion in the public press, is by no means the evil some would have you believe. I speak as one who knows. This is not the place for dry financial statistics, but I assure you that through this combination of milk dealers which has been recently effected, you will have a cheaper milk than has ever been given here before and a far more regular and reliable service. For the quality, we must trust to the opinion of these experts. But for the wish to serve your best interests, and for a capacity in service developed through years of experience, you may always count on yours truly.
Isn't he interesting?
Oh, you have that right.
I am sure we are all very grateful to have Mr. Billings here, and to him for giving so much of his valuable time to us today. But it is so interesting, in the study of large general questions to get information straight from the fountainhead. And now we shall learn the medical side of it from a dear friend of mine, a most competent authority. Ladies, I take pleasure in introducing Dr. Strong, who will speak to us on, what do you call it, Doctor?
Well, let us call it the danger of impure milk. We all love babies. We love our own babies best of all. We all want to feed our babies well. And some of us can't do it ourselves. Next to the mother, the most important food supplier for our children is the cow. Milk is the most valuable article of food for little children. I suppose you all know that bottle-fed babies die faster than breastfed, by far. They die mostly in summer, and from enteric and diarrheal diseases. 17,437 babies under 1 year old died in New York in 1907. 1,315 died in Boston between June 1st and November 30th of that same year, in 6 months' time. In Fall River, at that same time, more than 300 out of 1,000 died. Nearly 1/3, ladies. In New York, in 5 years, over 23,000 children of all ages died of measles, scarlet fever, diphtheria combined. And in that same time, over 26,000 babies under 2 years died of diarrheal diseases. Out of 1,943 cases of infantile diseases in New York, only 3% were breastfed. Now, ladies, this class of diseases comes from bacteria, and the bacteria come, in the vast majority of cases, from the milk. You see, the bottle-fed baby does not get its supply directly from the source, as when it's fed by its mother. Between the cow and the baby stands the milkman. The milkman is not a mother. I believe that if mothers ran the milk business, they would be not willing to poison other women's babies, even to make money for their own. The producer and distributor of milk has small thought for the consumer's interests. To protect the consumer, the law now provides the milk inspector. But the milk inspector has on one side a few alert businessmen who are often ready to pay well to protect their interests. And on the other side, a great mass of apathetic citizens who do not take the trouble to protect their own. By the kind permission of your president, I have brought with me a resident of a less fortunate part of your town, that she may give a personal experience. Mrs. O'Shea, won't you please come to the platform?
Mrs. O'Shea hesitates, then rises.
Won't you please make room, ladies? Mrs. Carroll escorts Mrs. O'Shea to the platform.
Brace up, Mrs. O'Shea. It's for little Patsy's sake, you know. He is gone, but there are many, many more.
Indeed they are. Thank heaven. But it's not too late for the others. The streets are full of them. If you please, ladies, have any of you lost a child?
I have, Mrs. O'Shea.
Well, there's many a doubt. But you have the consolation of knowing that your children have all done that could be done for them. And ours dies every summer. Such a many of them dies. And we can't help it. They used to tell us 'twas the hand of God. And then they said 'twas the hot weather. And now they're preaching it all to us that it's the milk that does it. The hot weather is bad because then things in the milk, they swarm thicker and faster. The little bugs that kills our babies. You could have seen my little Patsy. He was the handsomest child and the strongest. He was already walking and barely a year old. And he was all I had, with me being a widow. And of course, I took the best milk I could. But all the milk in our parts comes from the trust. And 16 cents a quart for them fancy brands. I could not pay. And just think of it. Even if I could, there's not enough of that to go around. There's so many of us. We have no choice. And we have no money to pay for the extras. And we must give our babies the milk that is sold to us and they die. Now, I know I should care about the hundreds and thousands of them. For Mrs. Casey's twins that died in a week last summer. And the 3 of Mrs. Flaherty's. And even them little blackies on Bay Street. I care the most for my little Patsy. Having but the one. Oh, ladies, if you could have seen him. The hair on his head was that soft, you know, full of curls and ringlets. And his cheeks, oh, the color of roses before he got sick. His little feet, oh, they were so pretty. And he'd kick out so strong and bold with them. And he could stand up. And he was beginning to hold on to the chairs and he'd catch one of the chairs and then he'd hold on to my skirts and he'd look up at me with a big smile and say, "Ma! Ma!" And what had I to give him
milk. That's the milk that killed him. I beg your pardon, ladies, but it breaks my heart. Ladies, we will now hear from our new inspector, Mr. Arnold.
I fear cold facts will make but little impression after such a moving appeal. Mrs. O'Shane has already given you the main points of the case. Most people are poor. Most milk is poor. And the poorest milk goes to the poorest people. The community must defend itself. The inspector has no power except to call out defects in the supply. Action must be taken to enforce the law. And unless the public does its duty, then there is often no action taken. Dr. Strong has already given you some figures as to the mortality in babies from contaminated milk. But there is also a heavy death rate for adults, as in the typhoid fever outbreak in Stamford, Connecticut in 1895, when 160 cases were reported in just 9 days, 147 of which had all gotten their milk from a single dairyman. Within 6 weeks, 386 cases were reported. Of those, 352 had gotten their milk from that one dealer, and 4 more had gotten it from him indirectly. His dairy was shut down, and within 2 weeks, the outbreak had practically subsided. Typhoid fever, scarlet fever, and diphtheria, as well as many less common bacterial diseases, are spread by infected milk. The inspection service watches both the producer and the distributor, examining the dairy farm as to the health of the cattle, the nature of their surroundings, the care given them in the processes of milking, bottling, etc., and looking to the milkmen and each step of handling, carriage, and delivery. In judging milk, there are 3 main questions to be considered. Its comparative quality as good milk, the percentage of butter, fat, etc. Its cleanliness, as dirty milk is always more likely to carry disease. And its freedom from adulteration, from the primitive pump water and starch down to the subtler and more dangerous commercial methods of today. Now, I've been asked to show you a simple test or two, one of such as might be produced in the home. These do not require a chemical or a bacteriological analysis, a microscope, or a lactometer. Merely a fine cloth and a little bit of iodine. Now please note, ladies, that neither of these tests proves anything absolutely harmful. I feel extremely awkward in testing a bottle of the Billings Company milk in the presence of Mr. Billings. Please know that the Billings Company has many supply dairies. If this one bottle should not prove first class, then it is of no direct reproach to your guest.
Ladies, I do not ask any excuses. The Billings Company is reliable.
We have every confidence in this milk, Mr. Billings. That is why I asked for the test.
May I ask for another vessel, a pitcher or a milk bottle, and a glass of water, please?
Bring in another pitcher, Louise, and a glass of water.
Now, there are only 2 things to be determined by this little test. whether the milk is clean and whether it has any starch in it. If the milk is clean according to our standards, there will be but a slight smear on the cloth when it is strained. Now, while this is straining, I will apply the iodine test to what remains in the bottle. If there's any starch present, the milk will turn blue.
Mary and Joseph.
I'm afraid one of the supplying dairymen thins his milk and whitens it. But starch is not dangerous. Dirt is. We will now examine the quality of our strain.
Oh, just look at that. Good.
Oh, goodness, you little pansy! And he's the one that done it!
Ladies, I demand to be heard. You have all known me for years. Most of you take my milk. You know that it is good. There is some mistake. This is not the milk that should have been delivered here today.
Evidently not.
No, 'twas not the milk for the rich, but 'twas the milk for the poor.
Ladies, I protest. My standing in this community, my years of service, ought to give me your confidence long enough to look into this matter. I must find out from which of our suppliers this inferior milk has come. Oh, we will have a thorough overhauling. I assure you, I had no idea such milk was being handled by us.
Then why did you give me this bill? This bill was handed to me a few moments ago by Mr. Billings to ensure my giving him a favorable test. It is the only time I have ever accepted a bribe, even for evidence.
Ladies, I wish to clear Mr. Arnold of even a moment's suspicion. I knew the milk trust would not bear inspection, so I urged Mr. Arnold to take the money, if it was offered, and bring it out in evidence. There it is.
I suspected as much. This is admitted to be a conspiracy between our new doctor and our new inspector. But I trust, ladies, that more than the word of two strangers will be required to condemn an old friend and fellow citizen.
I gave you that bill, Mr. Billings. It's the one you changed for me just now. That much of a conspiracy I can admit to.
So you and your accomplice had it all framed up to knife me. And it is your word and his, a man whose very admission proves him a venal scoundrel, to stand against mine. Do you think that I had but $100 bill about me?
Oh, well, I doubt if you had more than one, with a red mark in the middle, on the top, of both sides of the bill.
It was a painful surprise to find the quality of milk which had been served to me, but it is more painful to see that it was evidently known to be bad. Ladies, I saw Dr. Strong mark this bill. I saw her give it to him in change for smaller ones.
Sure. And I saw him pass it to the man.
Ladies, if you would kindly move a little, I think Mr. Billings would be glad to pass out.
You'll lose your job, young man. I have some power in this town.
And so have I, Mr. Billings. I'll see that Mr. Arnold keeps his place. We need him. Here you said that this club could carry the town, that we women could do whatever we wanted with our influence. Oh, now we see what our influence amounts to. Rich or poor, we are all helpless together unless we wake up to the dangers and protect ourselves. That is what the ballot is for, ladies. To protect our homes. To protect our children. To protect the children of the poor. I'm willing to vote now. I'm glad to vote now. I've got something to vote for. Friends, sisters, all who are in favor of women's suffrage and pure milk, say aye. 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 Aye.
Change did not come quickly. After this play was written, it would be another 9 years before white women in the United States were granted the right to vote from the 19th Amendment.
The milk industry standard prior to 1911, especially in large cities, was 1 pint of warm water to each quart of actual milk.
To counter the resulting bluish tint, whiteners, plaster of Paris, or chalk was sometimes added to the recipe. Pureed calves' brains might also be added to provide the illusion of yellowing cream at the top.
If the milk was threatening to sour, it was common practice to add formaldehyde to stop the decomposition.
It wasn't until 1987, 76 years after this play was written, that the FDA published a final regulation mandating the pasteurization of milk and all milk products in final package for direct consumption.